High above human noise, where wind sculpts silence into song, a falcon circles. Nothing in its flight is accidental. Even stillness serves movement. For centuries, the falcon has symbolized perspective, consciousness freed from confusion, instinct converted into focus. In the language of Carl Jung, such a bird represents the part of us capable of observing rather than reacting. To see from above is to see clearly, and clarity is the beginning of freedom. This Jungian test invites you to step into that sky. You'll meet 4 falcons, each carrying an archetypal current that shapes the ways you think, decide, and follow purpose. They are not mere animals but reflections drawn from your inner myth: the golden, silver, crimson, and black. 4 colors expressing 4 styles of consciousness. Look at them not as choices but as mirrors. The one that catches your instinct immediately, before thought translates reaction into words, is the messenger of your present soul state. Whatever falcon you choose reveals how you approach challenges, success, emotion, and transformation. In Jungian psychology, we live between earth and sky, still anchored to instinct yet built for vision. That tension can exhaust us, but it is also our evolutionary magic. Falcons embody that balance perfectly, ancient hunters who soar as symbols for gods. They survive the chaos below yet navigate clarity above. When you choose a falcon tonight, you're symbolically aligning with one facet of that same duality, acknowledging both your earthly drive and your spiritual perception. Close your eyes for a breath. Hear air move around you, that faint pressure between freedom and control. Imagine yourself standing on a plateau just before dawn. Wind lifts your hair, tastes of salt and dust. The horizon lightens from indigo to silver. 4 shapes hover against morning sharpness, each waiting patiently for recognition. The first glints gold, fierce yet benevolent, wings ignited by sunrise. The second gleams silver-white, silent and smooth, logic embodied in motion. The third burns crimson, pulsing heat through sky like a heartbeat visible. The last glides black as the storm's eye, mysterious, grounded in shadow yet utterly awake. Without thinking, which one makes your heart move? Which pattern of flight feels like yours? Hold that image, it's your intuition speaking a language older than reason. Before we explore those wings in detail, allow me a small pause for community. If journeys through archetype, symbolism, and mythic psychology resonate with you, subscribe to this channel and share in the comments which falcon has already chosen you. Your words keep these reflections alive. Here, watching and learning, you are part of a circle that values insight above noise and aims for clarity even amid life's weather. A single comment, "I am the silver falcon," or "the crimson called my name," becomes flight pattern visible to others seeking the same self-knowledge. Return now to the sky in imagination. Each falcon circles a different aspect of being human. The golden falcon embodies clarity of purpose, leadership through warmth, and optimism under pressure, the solar hero who turns confidence into guidance. The silver falcon embodies intellect and perception, that lucid mind able to dissect complexity without cruelty, a sage that protects through understanding. The crimson falcon is pure passion and courage, the heart refusing numbness, the creative rebel that answers fear with expression. And the black falcon is intuition walking through darkness with trust, the mystic strategist who turns shadow into sight. Together they form the complete compass of the psyche, north of truth, south of love, east of intellect, west of instinct. When Jung described individuation, the becoming of one's whole self, he used the symbol of flight frequently. He said personality matures when conscious mind and unconscious wing move in unison. The falcon exists as living symbol of that movement. Choosing one is agreeing to learn from it, not to idealize it. We never own archetype, we collaborate with it. Your chosen bird becomes teacher during the period of life you currently inhabit. And later, as your awareness changes, another falcon might rise on your horizon. That fluidity is evolution itself. So, what will this exercise give you? Not prediction, not fortune, but direction. A falcon doesn't answer questions, it reframes them from higher view. That's what this psychology test offers, a perspective shift revealing patterns you already live but rarely name. To the heart it whispers feeling, to the intellect understanding, to the life weary of ambiguity an outline of purpose. You may notice as you read or listen that breathing slows. That's the psyche preparing for encounter. Symbolic images act like passwords, they open rooms you forgot existed. Soon we'll move through each color of flight, each temperament. Notice how passages affect your body: warmth, stillness, or a sudden image flashing behind eyes. Those somatic responses are not coincidence but communication from the unconscious verifying recognition. Before we journey into those descriptions, remember the paradox under all of them. The falcon's mastery of height depends entirely on surrender to wind. Strength arises from trust. Power without humility plummets. And humility without will never leaves the ground. Your chosen falcon will teach you where, between those poles, your current life is hovering, too controlling or too uncertain, and how to glide again in balance. Let dawn fully rise around you now. You stand upon the cliff's edge as the first falcon descends, feather edges glowing gold as molten glass. Eyes clear, calm, unafraid. This is the golden falcon, the visionary of purpose, ready to teach what it means to rise for meaning rather than for applause. Tilt your imagination upward. Its shadow crosses your heart like sunlight reflected on water. The first lesson of the sky is about to begin. The golden falcon, the visionary of purpose. A warm wind sweeps the plateau, gilding stone and skin alike. Out of that radiance glides the golden falcon, wings shimmering like a moving sunrise. If this was the falcon that pulled at you, you are aligned with the archetype of the visionary of purpose, the impulse within that seeks clarity, ambition, and meaningful direction. In Jungian terms, it corresponds to the hero energy rising toward the king or queen archetype, purpose refined by maturity. To live under the sign of this bird means you cannot tolerate aimlessness. You experience vision as necessity. Ideas arrive fully formed, entire worlds waiting for you to manifest them. When others hesitate, you feel compelled to act. The golden falcon isn't loud, it's deliberate, navigating height with patience and command. Your psyche mirrors that flight, drawn to leadership but allergic to spectacle, craving challenge only to transform it into grace. Yet the brilliance that lifts you can also blind. The same focus that births creation sometimes dims empathy toward those still learning to fly. In mythology, solar beings, Helios, Apollo, R.A., radiated power but risked burning too brightly. Jung saw this as inflation of consciousness, ego mistaking its temporal light for the sun itself. It happens quietly. Goals become gods, achievements become identity. The golden falcon's shadow manifests as exhaustion dressed as dedication. You fight invisible battles against your own high standards. Pause and ask, do I climb for a view or for validation? Who truly benefits from my precision, the vision itself or my need to prove it? These gentle questions cool the wings without clipping them. Humility is the wind that prevents altitude sickness. When you replace control with curiosity, the sky expands tenfold. Then your light no longer competes, it guides. People sense your clarity long before you speak. It makes you beacon in foggy conversations, natural strategist when others lose faith. You might be teacher, mentor, artist, entrepreneur, any soul who translates chaos into course. But your greatest achievements may happen invisibly, stabilizing others merely by existing in integrity. That calm efficiency is your signature. The world subconsciously trusts it even when you doubt yourself. Under strain, you retreat into solitude to restore calibration. That, too, is archetypal. Every sun must set to recharge. Do not fear those evenings of reduced shine. In psychological language, they are integration, the hero yielding to the healer. They allow warmth to gather instead of scatter. Burnout is simply brilliance mismanaged. Reflection replenishes it. Each quiet hour spent watching your own horizon is faith, not doubt. The true leader learns to listen at the same altitude where others shout. Your creativity functions through structure. You may prefer list to leap, outline to improvisation, but secretly, the structure supports imagination rather than restricts it. A falcon's flight path looks straight only from ground. In wind, it's constant adjustment. Likewise, perfection arises from continuous attention, not rigid rule. If life feels too controlled lately, invite small chaos, a day without schedule, an idea pursued purely for play. Evolution of the golden falcon means remembering that lightness is as commanding as gravity. Jung wrote that the process of individuation transforms ambition into contribution. When that shift happens for you, leadership softens into legacy. You cease flying alone toward personal goals and begin sculpting currents for others to rise upon. That could mean mentoring, creating art that encourages rather than astonishes, or simply living transparently enough that others believe courage is achievable. Purpose becomes generosity, vision becomes vessel. People carrying this archetype often sense destiny but rarely name it aloud, fearing arrogance. Yet life keeps confirming it through synchronicity, doors opening too neatly, patterns repeating until recognized. Those coincidences are not vanity, they're communication with the deep psyche, urging you to trust capacity. Your purpose lies where joy and responsibility intersect. Follow that convergence, and fatigue dissolves into devotion. The Golden Falcon reveals how to balance sovereignty with service. It reminds you that strength is not about dominating the sky, but about maintaining altitude through harmony. Look at the metaphor literally. A falcon's mastery comes not from muscle alone, but from understanding air. It reads fluctuation, senses invisible currents, collaborates with wind. So, too, must you collaborate with circumstance. Allow life to adjust trajectory through intuition, control every variable less fiercely. Co-creation is the higher evolution of command. Picture this guardian now circling once above you, then climbing into the sun until brightness gentles into silver. You sense its energy lingering, productive, confident, but calm. Somewhere in the luminous height another gleam takes shape, cooler, quieter, resembling moonlight on metal. The abstraction transforms into the silver falcon, watcher of intellect and seeker of clear truth. Its flight does not dazzle, it glides with measured precision. Where gold burned with inspiration, silver reflects wisdom. Our journey now moves toward reflection that heals through understanding rather than achievement. Let your eyes adjust to the pale light. The next sky is one of contemplation. The silver falcon, the seeker of wisdom. The air cools as the golden heat fades to a tempered gleam. The horizon turns a quiet steel color, not cold, but clear, a silence that invites comprehension. From that silence descends the silver falcon, gliding so smoothly that it appears motionless. Its feathers catch every glint of light without hoarding any, they mirror the sky rather than compete with it. If this is the bird that drew your gaze, your soul is attuned to reflection, reason, and measured truth. In Jungian language, this archetype aligns with the sage and hermit potential latent in every psyche, the mind devoted to understanding before acting. Those who resonate with this falcon are often analytical by nature, patient researchers, patient friends, voices of discernment amid haste. You sense patterns faster than you applaud them. You prefer comprehension to confusion, accuracy to improvisation. Intelligence for you feels sacred, not competitive. It's the love child of curiosity and integrity. Where others chase novelty, you crave meaning. This orientation brings dignity to thought itself. You think with grace, as if each idea deserved ceremony. Your strength lies in calm observation. Life grants you a high vantage point, not because you seek superiority but because distance helps you see interconnection. You recognize how events echo each other, how emotion disguises itself as argument, how timing defines more outcomes than luck. This perception equips you to advise without manipulation, to foretell without superstition. You excel where clarity saves errors, planning, counseling, education, writing, any form that rewards reflection. Your weapon and gift are the same, attention refined into insight. Yet every gift casts shadow. For the silver falcon, clarity can ossify into detachment. The wish to understand everything risks substituting analysis for experience. Jung wrote that intellect, when used as shield, keeps psyche safe but sterile. You may catch yourself observing instead of living, narrating emotion instead of feeling it. Self-awareness transforms into surveillance. Peace hardens into numbness masquerading as maturity. You know this dangerous comfort. It feels like thinking about flying instead of spreading wings. Ask quietly, do I study life to participate or to stay immune from surprise? Do I choose logic to avoid the vulnerability of wonder? Life doesn't punish intellect, it asks it to serve the heart. Imagine the falcon folding one wing silver, the other barely tinted rose. That blush is compassion rejoining wisdom. Knowing warms only when shared. The highest version of your archetype uses knowledge not to protect from emotion, but to protect emotion's dignity. In Jung's typology, this aerial lucidity springs from a dominant rational function yearning for balance from its emotional twin. To keep the psyche healthy, the thinker must rediscover feeling as teacher. That rediscovery rarely occurs through drama, It often arrives through small moments, laughter unfiltered, art unfinished, forgiveness offered without needing conclusion. Permit yourself such participation. Every time you act before over-explaining, you integrate mind with soul. Your relationships often orbit around counsel. Friends seek your perspective because you don't panic. Still, remember that silence can wound if mistaken for judgment. You may believe listening equals love, yet sometimes others need to witness your vulnerability, to hear that you, too, wrestle with uncertainty. Wisdom authenticates itself through shared confusion more than flawless answers. Let that release perfection's grip, show imperfection consciously. When you admit not knowing, silver turns to mirror. Others see themselves permitted to be unfinished. Professionally, you are drawn to clean systems and elegant design, not only in art but in morality and daily decision. Ambiguity irritates you until it's understood, then fascinates you once tamed. Be wary of letting nuance become obsession. Wholeness accepts paradox as architecture, not error. Sometimes two truths fly side by side and never collide. The Silver Falcon teaches this higher relativism, discernment without cynicism, awareness without arrogance. That balance keeps brilliance humane. The Silver Guardian also governs truth-telling. Your intuition spots dishonesty like glitter on sand. It flashes immediately. But resist using discernment as weapon. Not every falsehood is betrayal. Sometimes it's fear dressed as protection. Your insight is scalpel sharp. Wield it gently. Truth spoken tenderly heals faster than truth thrown. Practice timing, truth's second wing. Wisdom depends not only on what you see but on when and how you reveal it. At its most integrated, this archetype manages both width and depth of vision. In leadership, it prevents impulsive error. In art, it brings clarity of form. In love, it translates chaos into calm through listening that feels like home. Still, never forget, clarity finds nourishment in color. Take time where intellect meets beauty. Art museums, music performances, pages of poetry too emotional to dissect. They remind you analysis and awe are siblings, not enemies. When we speak of what this falcon reveals, the answer is integrity itself. To think cleanly is spiritual hygiene. Through you, the psyche remembers that purity of intention outshines volume of promise. Even silence becomes articulate under your stewardship. And when you choose to act, decisions cut precise lines through confusion like the bird's wing cutting dawn. That, truly, is enlightenment in motion. Now the light shifts once more, silver deepens to amber. Heat returns, not from the studied calm of intellect but from pulse itself. A flare of crimson catches horizon, radiating passion into air grown still. The heartbeat you thought you'd forgotten accelerates. Something fierce yet affectionate approaches, the crimson falcon, pulse of courage and emotion, the archetype of the heart when it overcomes fear. Prepare to feel the difference between knowing life and loving it. The crimson falcon, the heart of courage. Heat gathers where intellect once ruled. Through a light thick as sunset emerges the crimson falcon, each feather burning with variations of fire, ruby fading to garnet, red dissolving into gold at the tips. If you felt your pulse quicken the moment this image appeared, you are guided by the archetype of the heart of courage, the part of you that loves through action, creates through emotion, and meets fear with expression rather than restraint. Jung associated this vibration with both the lover and warrior archetypes, the synthesis of passion and honor. To live under its wings is to experience life vividly. Every feeling arrives in high definition. Every relationship vibrates with significance. You do not taste existence. You devour it. When you celebrate, energy magnifies everyone nearby. When you despair, silence itself seems to ache. You are magnetic not because you demand attention but because intensity translates itself into presence. You are a reminder incarnate that authenticity, once embodied, is irresistible. Your strength is emotional courage, the readiness to feel entirely, even at personal risk. You say what others edit, cry when others clench, love when others analyze. This honesty disarms and also unsettles. Many spend years learning how to be this open. You were simply built this way. But with gift comes vulnerability. You cannot half live. Where the golden falcon sought purpose, and the silver falcon sought understanding, you seek connection, communion, the living spark inhabiting both joy and grief simultaneously. In Jung's psychology, energy flows wherever attention goes. Your attention is flame. Direct it skillfully, and life blossoms. Chase every spark, and it burns out. Boundaries become spiritual practice for you. Without them, empathy dissolves into exhaustion. Learn to pause before giving, to measure impulse without muting it. Feeling everything doesn't mean answering everything. Sometimes compassion means letting people find strength rather than providing it. That discernment transforms passion into power. This archetype's shadow is impulsivity disguised as authenticity. You may confuse urgency for truth, mistaking every reaction for revelation. But emotion becomes wisdom only when allowed to echo. Let feelings reverberate within before speaking. If they return gentler, they're genuine. If they return louder, they're lesson. Jung might call this listening to the anima, the inner feminine energy of feeling, before letting animus, the action drive, take over. In balancing those, passion discovers its soul. Creativity pulses through this archetype's veins. Many artists, writers, and visionaries operate under its dominion. They translate sensation into form with fearless honesty. If you identify with this falcon, art is less pastime than necessity. It keeps energy moving outward instead of boiling inside. Make something often: music, letters, meals, ideas, anything that hands emotion a body. Your psyche requires expression the way lungs require breath. Without it, emotions build as echo, creating anxiety where inspiration should live. Relationships under this falcon's fire are unforgettable. You love with transparency, an open beat visible from a mile away. But depth can overwhelm if shared indiscriminately. You may offer devotion to those unready to handle its voltage. Their retreat can feel like betrayal when it's merely saturation. Balance intensity with patience. Not everyone learns the language of vulnerability at your speed. Teach it softly. The world understands poetry slower than heartbeat. At your highest frequency, compassion burns brighter than passion. Your courage shifts from proving bravery to radiating warmth. When you channel energy through service, mentoring youth, defending fairness, instigating creative change, you evolve from flame into hearth. You stop needing audience because presence itself rewards you. This maturity is what Jung called transformation of libido, raw force turned into spiritual vitality. Love enlarges from personal to universal, from single fire to sunrise. Sometimes emotion scares you more than danger. There will be days when compassion feels exposure, when love feels liability. On those days, visualize this falcon perched calmly, feathers still red but settled. Its breathing slows, power contained but not diminished. That is your reminder: passion doesn't vanish when quiet, it refines. Silence can be the bravest statement. The courage to rest amid intensity is mastery, not fear. Professionally and socially, this archetype inspires movement. You are the motivator within teams, the heart behind logic, the idealist animating strategy. Your enthusiasm can resurrect morale wherever apathy reigns. Yet environment matters. Prolonged cynicism suffocates you. Guard psychic hygiene. Surround yourself with honest hope. Depression, when it visits, signals not weakness but imbalance between giving and receiving. Seek company that reciprocates energy instead of draining it. The Jungian test reveals that your purpose revolves around embodying emotional truth as liberation. Society trains people to minimize feeling. You remind it that sensitivity is intelligence compressed into instinct. Through you, others rediscover permission to care. Every heartfelt act, a compliment, a creative risk, a compassionate confrontation, spreads alchemy in visible form. Emotion becomes evolutionary fuel. Kindness becomes revolution's rhythm. As life matures, passion often confronts shadow, anger, frustration, despair at injustice or limitation. When they rise, think of color theory, how crimson turns darker before becoming maroon, richer rather than lesser. Anger accepted for its informative message, not its destructive impulse, guides you toward boundaries. You're learning discernment between rage that burns bridges and fire that lights beacons. Ask daily, will this heat create or consume? Let that question pilot reaction. At full expression, the Crimson Falcon represents wholeness between vulnerability and valor. A heart beating loudly but wisely. Others will follow your courage as we follow warmth on cold days. Your existence becomes invitation. Live deeply, feel fully, yet act kindly. That synthesis is the human spirit unmasked. Now exhale. Feel pulse calm slightly, awareness expanding back into wider sky. From the crimson horizon emerges darker movement, a falcon nearly invisible, black-edged with blue starlight. It travels lower, nearer storms, trusting instincts over sight. Its flight sings of transformation through trial, discernment born of shadow. Prepare to meet the black falcon, guardian of intuition and secrecy, the archetype of the psyche that learns not by seeing but by sensing. The black falcon, the keeper of shadow and intuition. Twilight thickens. The last scarlet of sun folds into indigo, and in that space between light and dark a presence moves, not brightly, not loudly, but certainly. It is the black falcon, its feathers absorbing light so completely that radiance seems to emanate from absence. If this image captured you, your inner world resonates with the keeper of shadow and intuition, the archetype of self-knowledge, courage in obscurity, and transformation through depth. Jung associated this energy with the magician and shadow archetypes, those who dive into mystery to harvest insight, who reform rather than reject the darkness within. This bird is not bound by daylight's expectations. It hunts in half-light, navigating currents invisible to others. Likewise, you sense what people mean before words form. You perceive pattern beneath chaos. You are traveler of thresholds, interpreter of dreams, reader of silences. Some might call it intuition, others empathy. Jung would name it the natural conversation between consciousness and the unconscious. You occupy that conversation daily, sometimes unknowingly. It's both gift and weight, to feel worlds most ignore. This guardian appears to those ready to face themselves, all of themselves. To choose the black falcon means your soul prefers truth over comfort. While others polish facades, you keep company with reality raw and unadorned. You've learned that denial imprisons and that courage is quieter than people imagine. It isn't shout or sword, it's willingness to stay in discomfort until insight arrives. People sense that steadiness in you. Your honesty influences simply because it's unflinching. When they drown in illusion, your presence functions as mirror, though mirrors sometimes anger as much as they heal. But every seer wrestles with solitude. The same vision that decodes motives can also isolate. You notice too much, absorb too deeply. To protect yourself, you may disappear, retreat into art, studies, secret rituals of recentering. At extremes, privacy turns to loneliness, and vigilance becomes suspicion. That's the shadow of the shadow, forgetting gentleness after speaking truth. Integration requires remembering light while living in honesty. Shadow work is meant to cleanse, not cage. Ask softly, do I use insight to connect or to avoid disappointment? Am I revealing what hurts, or rehearsing it? The psyche renews itself when honesty opens toward compassion. Otherwise, understanding fossilizes into cynicism. You, perhaps more than any other falcon type, must practice faith, the rare kind that believes the universe holds pattern even when perception falters. Believing without proof tests the magician's humility and perfects it. Another trait of your archetype is precision under pressure. Like its living counterpart striking prey mid-flight, you act decisively once vision clarifies. Friends trust your judgment because it feels anchored not in theory but in knowing. Yet keep awareness of timing. Truth delivered too soon becomes weapon, delivered with patience, medicine. Discernment, not bluntness, distinguishes wisdom from impulse. You already see deeper. Choose when to speak with as much care as what to say. The black falcon also symbolizes transformation, the process Jung described as alchemical change. Base emotion refined into understanding, chaos into coherence. In everyday terms this means you turn crises into classrooms. While others break under betrayal or failure, you instinctively ask, what is this teaching me? You won't pretend detachment. You metabolize experience until pain recycles as empathy. It's sacred combustion, suffering releasing light. Through you, old wounds educate future compassion. However, constant intensity requires release. Solitude is healing only while it restores. Prolonged isolation forms emotional rust. Seek grounding rituals that recreate belonging, conversation, art, walking, helping. Mystery remains healthy only when balanced by ordinary life. Even the mystic must eat breakfast. You'll know balance is returning when laughter feels more real than analysis. That's intuition's true goal, to reconnect spirit with world, not withdraw from it. Professionally or creatively, this archetype thrives in depth psychology, investigative work, artistry, healing, leadership by insight rather than command. You guide with subtlety, one sentence tuning entire atmospheres. But you must remember to seek joy intentionally. The dark's accuracy can overshadow color's nourishment. Meditate not only on meaning but on gratitude. Gratitude is light transformed into daily practice, a candle willingly carried into labyrinth. It shortens nights without denying them. At its most refined, the Black Falcon reveals an intuitively integrated self, one unafraid of contradiction. You understand that purity includes imperfection, that progress repeats spirals, not lines. Because of this insight, you counsel, lead, or write differently, without judgment, without dramatizing. Darkness stops being villain, it becomes teacher. And teacher eventually becomes friend, whispering, "I was never against you, I was the unseen part of you." Realizing this completes the inner alchemy. The shadow turns partner in flight rather than storm to escape. Imagine this falcon settling briefly beside you, its black feathers catching ghost reflections of every color seen today. Gold glints near earthen base, silver hides in underwing, crimson burns subtle along edge. All colors coexist within what once seemed absence. It lifts again quietly, marking transition. You notice how night now gleams rather than threatens, how stars mimic feathers scattered through sky. Integration has begun. The psyche perceives wholeness. From that nocturnal height, gaze outward. Somewhere beyond the darkness line, dawn readies itself, a new light that mixes all preceding shades into unity. In the final act of this journey we will rise to that horizon, the moment when these four falcons merge into one pattern of understanding, reminding us, as Jung wrote, that enlightenment is not escaping shadows but owning wings wide enough to hold them. Prepare for ascent. Soon comes open daylight and reflection on what all this flight has meant, and what it asks you to remember every time you look at the sky. Conclusion: the sky within. The air begins to brighten again, not in a sudden flash, but in the kind of quiet illumination only those who've watched the night can truly see. The horizon widens, painted not in single color but in a spectrum of all you've encountered, the gold of purpose, the silver of clarity, the crimson of courage, and the black of depth that somehow holds them all together. You realize now that every falcon was never separate, never competing. They were movements of one great wing, the psyche's flight back toward wholeness. In Jung's language, this is the point of individuation, the reunion of opposites, light and shadow, love and intellect, ambition and rest. Throughout this symbolic journey you've been studying yourself from the air. Choosing a falcon was the mind's way of showing which instinct led you at this moment in life. Yet the deeper truth is that all four live inside you. When aligned, they create rhythm like the beating of wings. Purpose gives direction, wisdom defines focus, passion fuels movement, and intuition stabilizes balance. Together, they form the complete circle of consciousness, the sky within. You may notice as you read or listen a subtle calm, breathing slower, perception sharper. That's integration unfolding. Every image we've soared through, the golden horizon, the silver silence, the crimson flame, the black night, has lodged in the unconscious and begun rearranging meaning. Jung called such experiences living symbols, bridges between what you know and what you're becoming. Through imagination, you've trained your psyche to remember its own vastness. It's easy to forget this depth once daily life resumes. Messages, schedules, obligations. But awareness need not vanish with noise. Look upward sometime at an ordinary sky. Even when clouds clutter sight, altitude exists whether seen or not. That's your mind too, limitless above the temporary weather of thought. When confusion feels endless, recall which falcon's energy can guide you back to clarity. From now on, these inner guardians are tools for real-world living, not distant metaphors. Golden for leadership, silver for reflection, crimson for compassion in action, black for honesty and intuition. Together they help you live consciously rather than reactively. Pause for a moment, and while the final light gathers around you, a brief interlude for connection. If you appreciate journeys like this one, tests where psychology meets story, symbol, and spirit, ***, subscribe to the channel ***, and comment which falcon resonated most. Each comment lands like another wing beat in this growing flock of introspective souls. Someone out there will read your response and realize they're not alone in their archetype. That's how individual awakening becomes collective wisdom. Breathe now. You're high above the landscape of worry, observing rather than trapped. The air here is thin but pure, defined by discernment rather than distraction. The falcons return briefly, circling around you in measured arcs, the golden descending from sunlight, the silver gliding out of cloud's edge, the crimson rising warm from horizon, the black lifting smoothly from shadow. They orbit not as hierarchy but as harmony. In their movement, you feel new map forming under ribs, compass drawn from wholeness. Understanding archetypes doesn't dissolve difficulty, it reframes it. When fear next arrives, you'll recognize the black falcon's challenge to trust unseen instinct. When confusion clouds purpose, you'll summon the silver's quiet analysis. When fatigue dulls courage, you'll call the crimson to reignite heart. When chaos makes you doubt direction, you'll borrow the golden's easy certainty that altitude exists even unseen. At any moment, you can inhabit one or blend them all. That choice, that awareness, is the gift this Jungian test reveals. Jung insisted that enlightenment doesn't consist of fantasizing perfection but integrating imperfection. So remember, you will still falter. There will be days when intuition misleads or emotion storms too loudly. That is not failure, it's weather. Pilots don't complain about turbulence. They study air, adjust wings, continue. Be that pilot to your soul. Return repeatedly to imagery that restores balance. If needed, close eyes midday and picture feathers cutting wind. Let breath imitate glide, steady inhale, long exhale. The nervous system listens to symbol as much as psyche does. Every flight ends in landing somewhere, a realization, a new habit, sometimes simple peace. But the point of this journey isn't finding single destination. It's remembering altitude, the capacity to view life from above when you choose. That memory rewires the definition of freedom. Freedom becomes not escape from gravity but partnership with it. You can touch ground without losing sky. Consider how these four energies might collaborate tomorrow. The golden initiates plan, the silver evaluates, the crimson motivates, the black guards against illusion. Your actions then stem from integrated awareness rather than scattered impulse. That's what Jung meant when he wrote that the self is both many and one, multiplicity ordered by consciousness, wildness educated by wonder. Each falcon is one of those original instincts refined by reflection. The more consciously you work with them, the more your behavior changes almost automatically. Decisions slower but surer, conflicts less consuming, creativity more fertile because it draws from several depths at once. Even sleep evolves. Dreams begin to feature the sky, birds, or open viewpoints, proof that unconscious now trusts collaboration with conscious mind. You are becoming sky literate, capable of reading motion through emptiness. As day stabilizes, you envision the four falcons blending into a single massive shadow across mountains, your own psyche, immense yet graceful. Below lie concerns that once felt unmanageable. From this height, their patterns make sense: valleys, rivers, intersections, every past event part of broader map. Seeing this, gratitude replaces regret, curiosity replaces fear. You understand now why Jung compared consciousness to flight. Once perspective widens, life can never shrink to cage again. Before the closing silence arrives, whisper thanks to each quality awakened tonight. Thank the visionary part that still believes in purpose. Thank the reflective part that translates chaos into comprehension. Thank the passionate part that keeps heartbeat vibrant. Thank the intuitive part that refuses lies and listens between words. Each thanks marks promise of collaboration. Symbols kept in gratitude shape behavior more deeply than resolutions written on paper. Finally, turn inward and imagine all birds folding into chest. Their wings merge with breath. You inhale purpose, exhale awareness. For the first time you notice something subtle. Sky doesn't surround you, it emanates from you. Perspective was never above, it was within. That realization softens everything. Freedom isn't elsewhere, it's experiential honesty, the courage to face truth and beauty at once. That is what the falcon has always represented, focus paired with faith. So, take this awareness back to everyday life, conversations, ambitions, mundane chores. There, apply vision kindly, think carefully, love generously, intuit bravely. Each act repeats the motion of wings against air, the unending dialogue between spirit and circumstance. Should fatigue return, recall that you know how to rise. You've practiced here. And when you look up and see a real falcon tracing somewhere between cloud and sun, let it remind you that your own mind can ride such height anytime, anywhere. This concludes our journey across the sky. May the memory of these archetypes guide you, and may every breath you take after this sentence contain a little of the wind we've shared. Thank you for flying inward. Until next time, stay aware, stay gentle, and keep your eyes on the horizon, because the horizon is where psyche becomes possibility.